Hi everyone, my name is Taylor and I will be going through some of the Operation Come Home volunteer training in relation to COVID-19, our new sort of policies and procedures, and some of the expectations that we have for volunteers who are volunteering during COVID-19. In this presentation, I will be going over material that has been gathered from the following resources, so Ottawa Public Health, Volunteer Ottawa, as well as Ottawa Inner City Ministries. In this presentation, I'll be going over off-site pre-screening, on-site personal protective procedures, which is when you are entering the building, an overview of personal protective equipment and how to properly wear and remove all of the personal protective equipment that you'll be wearing, as well as an overview of the position as a breakfast volunteer and the cleaning procedures associated with that position. So, to start with off-site pre-screening, we ask that all volunteer and staff, for that matter, who are feeling unwell, refrain from entering Operation Come Home. So we ask that all volunteers ask themselves the following questions prior to coming to OCH. So if you answer yes to any of these questions, we ask that you don't come in. So if you have fever, chills, cough, difficulty breathing or shortness of breath, a sore throat or difficulty swallowing, a runny nose that's unrelated to seasonal allergies, loss of taste or smell, not feeling well with an unexplained headache, unexplained tiredness and muscle aches, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal pain, and we ask that you consider whether in the last 14 days you have been had close physical contact with a person who was sick with a respiratory illness, had a new or worsening cough, fever, or difficulty breathing, if you have been near someone who has returned from travel outside of Canada in the last 14 days, and whether you've been near a confirmed or probable case of COVID-19. So, for example, this can either be close contact with someone who you know, or if you've received an alert through the COVID app that I hope that you have. So if you do receive an alert through the app, we'd ask that you be tested for COVID-19 and you will be unable to return until you have either proven that you have a negative test, or you'll have to wait 14 days after you have either these symptoms or have been in contact with these individuals, as well as 24 hours after any of your symptoms have gone away, if you have any symptoms of COVID-19. We also ask that if you have traveled in the last 14 days outside of Canada, that you do not come to OCH. We ask that if you are experiencing any of these symptoms, or if you have checked yes to any of these boxes, that you either send myself an email or you call Operation Come Home as soon as you're aware that you have these symptoms and will be unable to come to Operation Come Home, and just call, ask for a drop-in staff, ask for myself, and just let them know that you're unable to come into Operation Come Home for whatever expected duration of time, and then we'll continue to check in with you just to see when you'll be able to return, if you are able to. Once you arrive at Operation Come Home, for those of you who haven't been volunteering with us before, you're going to have to sanitize, or you're going to have to ring a doorbell, and then someone will let you in. After you are let into the building by a staff member, we will ask that you sanitize your hands, and that if you do not already have a mask on, that you put one on. We have disposable masks as well as reusable masks that we are able to provide, so that's up to what you're most comfortable with, if you prefer to have a surgical mask or if you prefer to use your own mask. We also ask that you allow us to take your temperature with one of the little temperature guns that everyone has these days. We'll be recording your temperature, and if you do have a fever, you'll be asked to leave, unfortunately, and then you'll be asked to either get a COVID test, and that proves that you do not have COVID, or you'll be asked to not return to Operation Come Home for 14 days or 24 hours after your last symptoms were present. We also ask that you answer our questionnaires, so one of our staff members will be asking you the same series of questions that you hopefully asked yourself prior to entering OCH. And then we're also going to get you to enter your information each time into our guest logbook so that we have clear records of when everyone was in the building, so that if there is a positive COVID case within our agency, we're able to contact you for contact tracing. An overview of the personal protective equipment, or PPE, that you'll be wearing is a mask and gloves. We ask that you wear the mask the entirety of your visit at OCH, and we ask that you wear the gloves throughout the entirety of your food preparation. I know for some this may be a little redundant, but we are going to watch some videos that just go over how to put on and take off certain personal protective equipment, as well as some sanitizing procedures, so how to properly sanitize your hands as well as properly, thoroughly wash your hands.
In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to wear and take off a mask. First, let's talk about some of the common mistakes that people make whenever wearing a mask like this. One common mistake that people make is that when they wear the mask, they will wear it under the nose. Another common mistake is that people will fail to seal the top of the mask around the nose and cheeks. In addition, people will sometimes fail to pull the mask under the chin. People also wear the mask upside down or backwards. And finally, while wearing the mask, people will sometimes touch the front of the mask, which is considered contaminated. Now let me give you some tips on how to wear the mask. So first, you need to determine which part actually goes over your nose, this part or that part. So to do that, what you want to do is you want to feel along those edges. And what you're feeling for is like a metal type band that's sewn into the mask that's easily flexible, that can fit over your nose, and that's the top part. Next, what you want to do is you want to determine which part of the mask is the front versus the back. And there's two ways you can do this. And if you're using a mask with ear loops, you can look at the ear loops, and where they are sewn at, this will be the area that goes on the face. So on this mask, they're sewn here, so this is the part that goes over my face. Also, you can look at the pleats of the mask and look at how they are pointing. When the pleats are pointing downward, this is the part that goes on the outside, versus the pleats that are pointing upward, that's the part that's going to touch your face. Before we put on a mask, we want to perform hand hygiene. When using a face mask with ear loops, place each loop over the ears. Then grasp the nose piece of the mask and bring it to cover the bridge of the nose. Then mold the nose piece of the face mask with the fingertips of both hands by starting at the bridge of the nose and work outward toward the cheekbone. Then grasp the nose piece of the face mask and pull the bottom of the mask under the chin. When removing the mask, it's important to remember that the front of the mask is considered contaminated. Therefore, grasp the ear loops of the mask with the fingertips and remove from the face. Dispose or clean and store for future use the mask per facility's protocol, and then perform hand hygiene.
Today we're going to demonstrate how to properly put on and take off latex gloves. Doing this correctly is essential for effective protection. Before we start, remember latex gloves are intended for single use only. First thing, examine the gloves before putting them on to be sure there are no holes or cuts in them. A best practice, don't wear gloves over jewelry with sharp edges that could cut or puncture the gloves. Most gloves are pretty durable, but put them on carefully to ensure they don't tear. This is important. When removing the gloves, carefully remove them by the cuff rather than the fingers, and turn them inside out as you remove them. Remember, don't touch the outside of the gloves with your fingers when removing them. Dispose of them in the garbage. However, if the gloves are contaminated with blood, they'll need to be disposed of properly in a biohazard bag. Wash hands thoroughly afterwards. Take a look at our hand washing video for more information. Thank you, and stay safe and healthy out there.
Wet hands with water and apply enough soap to cover all surfaces of the hands. Let the water run smoothly to avoid touching the tap later on. Rub hands palm to palm to obtain a good quantity of foam. Then rub right palm over the back of left hand with interlaced fingers, and vice versa. Rub again palm to palm with fingers interlaced. Rub the back of your fingers to opposing palms with fingers interlocked, repeating this action for each hand. Rub rotationally left thumb clasped in right palm, and vice versa. To clean the tips of the fingers, rub rotationally backwards and forwards with clasped fingers of right hand in left palm and vice versa. Rinse hands thoroughly with running water. Dry hands thoroughly with a single-use towel. If the tap is not elbow operated, use this towel to turn off the tap without touching it directly. Your hands are now clean and safe. Please note that this technique is not appropriate when hands are visibly dirty or after using the toilet. In these cases, hand washing is required. Hand rubbing should take you 20 to 30 seconds. Use a timer or count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in each of the following steps. Apply a palmful of alcohol-based hand rub in a cupped hand, enough to cover all surfaces of the hands. Rub hands palm to palm, then rub right palm over the back of left hand with interlaced fingers and vice versa. Rub again palm to palm with fingers interlaced. Rub the back of your fingers to opposing palms with fingers interlocked, repeating this action for each hand. Rub rotationally left thumb clasped in right palm and vice versa. To clean the tips of your fingers, rub rotationally backwards and forwards with clasped fingers of right hand in left palm and vice versa. Once dry, your hands are now clean and safe.
Here's an overview of the breakfast volunteer position as well as cleaning procedures. For anyone who has volunteered with us before, you know that we would usually have you make a lot of breakfast items in bulk, and then we would serve them to the youth. We've switched from that method over to individually packaged hot breakfast in order to minimize the amount of exposure that the food has to any sort of airborne germs. So now breakfast volunteers will create an individually packaged hot breakfast as well as a bagged lunch. Prior to heading up to the kitchen, we ask that you locate the drop-in staff to see if they have any specific breakfast items planned, as well as how many breakfasts and lunches they anticipate needing for the day. So based on the time of the month, we may expect fewer or more youth, and based on how many youth we've been seeing in the previous days or weeks, they may have an idea of how many breakfasts they need. When you enter the kitchen, you'll find that we have many disposable containers which will be used to individually package each meal. So each container should have everything minus utensils that the youth will need, and minus condiments as well. Once you have finished preparing breakfast, we ask that you bring it to the kitchen located in the drop-in, where staff will then give out the breakfast with all the necessary utensils, as well as providing youth with some condiments if necessary. Once you finish delivering breakfast, just check in with the staff again in the drop-in just to see how many lunches they think that you'll need to make. Each lunch should be packaged in a brown paper bag, which are in the kitchen, and it should include a sandwich, some sort of fresh fruit or vegetable, as well as a prepackaged snack like crackers, granola bars, applesauce, yogurt, etc. Once you finish preparing the lunches, we ask that you bring them to the drop-in, where the staff will then disperse them again, just like breakfast. Once you've completed all cooking activities, we ask that you go back upstairs into the kitchen and do some cleaning. So we ask that you clean all of the dishes that you used and put them on the drying rack. We ask that you sanitize and put away any items that you use, such as condiments or spices. We ask that you'll sweep the floor. And we also ask that you sanitize any high-touch areas, or really any area of the kitchen that you were touching. So the fridge doors, for example, and handles, the freezer handle/door, the sink faucets, as well as any of the preparation station that you used. All right, so final thoughts. We ask that you be mindful of the space and keeping yourself safe. So in that, we hope that you will we ask that you wear your PPE throughout the entire duration of your visit, just to ensure your safety and the safety of others. We ask that you be honest with yourself and your own limits in terms of what you're comfortable with. So just make sure to check in with yourself frequently, and we will not be offended if you decide after a volunteer shift or two that you're no longer comfortable volunteering. It's really up to what you're comfortable with. We also want you to be mindful of your own health and be open if you're not feeling well. Again, if you have any questions, please reach out to me via email. My email is taylor@operationcomehome.ca, or you can call our main line and ask for myself. Thanks.